What's up, guys? This is Josh with Sobriety WoD. We want to do this little intro video to kind of give you a basis for what this program is all about and give you a feel for what we're trying to do. So just a little bit about me. My name's Josh Trahan. I'm a level 3 CrossFit certified trainer. Was a regionals athlete in 2013. Have 2 affiliates in the Lafayette area and have been doing CrossFit as a fitness program and as a occupation for the last 6 years. On the sobriety side, I've been sober from alcohol for the last 6 years. I went to, not treatment, but I went to a recovery center in Georgia, which was kind of like a halfway house, and got sober from alcohol there. And so that's kind of my experience with sobriety. My story will sort of come out along the way, and so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. Parts of it are just the traditional story of the addict, alcoholic, and some parts of it are pretty wild. But the focus here is to introduce you to this program, Sobriety WoD, and to give you an idea of what we're trying to do. So what I find in the way that I coach is that in order for me to get you started on a path, I really have to address the why behind it, the reason for it. And so that's what I'm going to try to do here. Ultimately, recovery gave me a program to live my life by. All right, it took this idea, or it made me aware of the idea that self-centeredness was the root of my problem. All right, my number one issue was my self-centeredness, whether it was just an excessive self-focus on my own problems or my own issues or my own fucking existence, or as it became more about the chemicals, then it was me obtaining my chemicals, me knocking over everyone that was in between me and my chemicals, and ultimately it all was a quest to feel better. So the program, for me, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and really the spiritual principles. Before that, I was deeply involved in biblical Christianity and all, and I've got some experience in a lot of other religions and spiritual ideas. And so when I realized that was the root of my problem, and that the program of recovery as outlined in the big books of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was a step-by-step way for me to try to deal with this self-centeredness, this like self-cancer that was eating me up. I kind of grabbed onto it because I needed that peace and freedom that came along with it. On the other side, I actually started CrossFit at the same time, and that's a whole story in itself, but I came to CrossFit basically the same way. So the same way that I was spiritually and emotionally broken when I entered into a recovery lifestyle, I was pretty physically damaged as well. I don't think it's a far-fetched thing to imagine that all of us have suffered some physical consequences of our addiction as well. And a big part of this program has to do with the idea that these two things are so heavily interrelated. All right, so let's start with this idea, because I think this is a good way to set things off. All right, the why of Sobriety WoD is all tied into the why of sobriety, period, and the why of fitness. So just to explain real quick, CrossFit became my physical program. Okay, what I learned to do spiritually through the program of AA, I learned to do for myself physically through the program of CrossFit. And I don't take credit for the ideas that are contained in either one of those. All that I'm doing and that we're trying to do is to show you how these things made up to produce this whole other level of sobriety, this whole other level of existence. And so I'm gonna touch on that a little bit. Through the process of recovery and getting sober, you know, we just pointed out that I learned that my basic problem was self-centeredness. All right, and so in order to treat that cancer, in order to treat that problem, I had to learn how to become other-centered. All right, and when I learned that, when I realized that, all my life started to make sense. I started to look back at all the conversations that I had, all the times I had been in trouble, and things that my parents tried to teach me, and realized that really that was it. It wasn't a selfish thing, although it wasn't what I thought of as selfish, but self-centeredness, I was like, yeah, that's true. So it's not like I was like always stealing from people or beating people up, or it's just that I was just always worried about me. And what happens when we get in that state, we feel disgusting. All right, we feel nasty. We get depressed. We're irritable, anxious, and discontent. All right, and so what we're trying to do is always find a solution for that. Eventually we stumble upon alcohol and other drugs, and we find this kind of solution that works for us. Right, it takes away that angst within us, and so that becomes of paramount importance to us. And so through that process, a lot of times what happens is we end up only doing more damage to others and our relationship with others in the quest to really just be okay. Um, so what the AA program showed me was that the greatest good, or the ultimate, or what happiness is, what contentment is, where we're trying to reach this place of, is ultimately found in service to others. All right, some element of taking away our self-centeredness, losing our ego, and bringing our humility down, bringing our pride and our self-focus down, and freeing us up to focus on helping others. There's a lot of explanations for this. Some of this stuff will get into like the evolutionary stuff, where we talk about the dopamine release of actually helping somebody else. I believe that our place in this world is really to help progress the species, and I think that's part of why serving others and helping others along in their journey is one of the biggest rewards that we can get. So through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I understood and was taught that usefulness to others was my ultimate purpose as a human being. So where I want to start with this is from that seed, from that nugget, that when I am unself-centered, I'm more content. The more I look at myself and my situation and what I want and the things that I need and all that stuff, the less contented, happy that I am. So this concept of usefulness to others, and straight out the big book, the idea of our main purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and others. All right, so going along those lines, if that's my purpose, and we all need that starting point, service to others, if that's my purpose in life, then I have to look at what are the requirements in order for me to fulfill that purpose. And so what I've discovered is that in my life, that in order to be of maximum service to others, in order to be useful to God and others, that requires two things. Okay, so a lot of addicts, a lot of people in recovery, alcoholics, whatever, are kind of reluctant to get involved in fitness or involved in a fitness program, and that's because of the concept of fitness that we have. The idea that's been marketed to us over and over and over is this idea that fitness is a look, and that the way we're sold it is this will make you look better, which will make you feel better about yourself, because most of us base our feelings about ourselves on what we perceive to be the opinions of others. Selfies in the mirror and looking hot and getting a better girlfriend and all that kind of stuff is what we think about the purpose of being fit. That's not the purpose of Sobriety WoD. That's not how fitness fits into Sobriety WoD. All right. The concept of Sobriety WoD and why Sobriety WoD has to do with the idea that usefulness requires two things. On the one hand, it requires willingness, and if you just think about this for a second, it'll make sense to you. So in order for me to be of service to God and others, I have to be willing to be used. All right, I have to be open to doing some shit that doesn't focus on me. Okay, so my willingness needs to be addressed, because if I'm self-centered, and especially if I'm in active addiction, there's a lot of things that prevent me from helping others. Okay, on the flip side of that coin, or the other blade of that scissors, is the concept of being capable. All right, so this goes way back in my story, and and I don't know if I said this already, but I'm not going to just sit here and talk about my story. My story comes out through all these classes and lessons. But I saw that in a spiritual only environment, I see a lot of people that are missing, or that are kind of like stuck, like they kind of hit a plateau. All right, and so a lot of times I think that what they're missing is the other side of the scissors, like we talked about. So let me explain it like this. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the willingness to give up myself in order to be useful to others, that process, the step process, the daily inventory process is what keeps me willing to be of service. Okay, so the spiritual side of the program addresses that side of life. But on the other hand, I also need to be capable. So willingness and capability, those are the two things that have to come together for usefulness, in my understanding. And so we need a program that addresses the capability. For me, that's what CrossFit has been. All right, CrossFit has made me more capable physically to be useful to others than any other time in my life. All right. Now, if we address fitness from this standpoint, when we understand that, fitness is essentially ensuring that I can be more useful to others, then it begins to take on a different look. And then what we find is that we actually have an obligation to be fit. All right. So what do I mean by that? When we're in active addiction, alcoholism, we are some of the biggest suckers of resources ever known to man, right? We suck out like the attention and the focus and the love and the concern and the financial resources of all the people that love us. We're just this consumer whole of all these things, and it seems like no matter how much people gave us, the more we took, right? Makes sense that recovery would kind of be the opposite of that. That now I don't absorb all the resources of my friends and family and all those people that care about me, and not only that, but the resources of the environment, right? I eat less than I used to. I don't consume as much as I used to. Just out of the world in general. I don't go to the doctor all the time. I don't miss work all the time. I'm not just sucking in these resources. I'm actually stable, and I'm able to put out. I'm able to give to others. And so, the two sides of that coin, the willingness and the capability, join together to make us of ultimate usefulness. So on the flip side, if I can be the most capable person in the world, I can be the best athlete, fit, strong, healthy, but have no desire to help anyone else, and from that standpoint, I am useless. And in the same vein, I can be the most willing spiritual person in the world, but if I'm laid up in bed because I'm on my third heart attack, or my muscles barely work, so I can't go play in the yard with my kid, or I can't go help my buddy move his couch, and it's definitely it's on a continuum. But if I'm that bad off, then I'm not useful either. I'm useless. All right. So this program is sort of starts at that starting point with this understanding that usefulness to others is pretty much our salvation, and our life depends upon us being useful to others and remaining usefulness to others. But that usefulness depends on us maintaining our spiritual condition, which maintains our willingness. And also the missing piece for a lot of us coming out of recovery is this idea of capability and maintaining our physical condition so that we are even capable of being used. So that's the start of this program. That's the idea behind it. That's my hope for it. This is experience that I have had. This is what I use in my own life, and has helped me to remain sober and fit for the last 6 years. And so the idea is that maybe if we look at it a different way, maybe we start to consider this a little bit differently, we can extend people who are, have this spiritual basis for recovery, but might be struggling in other areas. We can try to pull them into an even better existence, an even better life. And in the same way, we've seen these CrossFit Journal articles and these videos of people who have said how much CrossFit has helped them in their sobriety and their recovery. And what I'm trying to do is to further even that as well. And this idea that we don't have to separate these two, right? They come together. And so this is a place where I'm hoping that people that are like-minded will be able to share this experience with each other and help each other leave this class being both spiritually emboldened and bolstered and strengthened, as well as being just one more step towards being healthy. So the willingness and the capability, that's the main idea of this class, to get you started with this idea of sobriety WoD, to understand what it is that we're doing. These messages, these ideas are going to be conveyed like this in the class, and then you guys are going to be able to do some workouts and stuff and feel some of these principles in action. So I really can't explain the whole thing just because there's a lot to it, but wanted to get you started on the right foot of understanding what the purpose of this thing even is. So real simply, I call this a recovery-based fitness program. All right, and we trust and lean on CrossFit and all their expertise, and they get all the credit for that. This is not, I'm not coming up with that stuff, and the thousands of years of spiritual heritage that has always been there. All I'm trying to do is to bring these things together in your life so that they become more meaningful, and so that you understand how important it is, and how and really what life can be whenever we get on this level on both areas of our lives. So hopefully you guys enjoy the class, and look forward to presenting this material to you guys as we progress. Your coaches are keeping up with this material. They're going to be able to present this stuff as well, and thanks for being here, man. I look forward to working with you.